Imagine waking up one day and realizing that the God you've entrusted with your deepest prayers might not be who you think he is. Take a moment to feel that ripple of uncertainty. Maybe it's fear at the thought of unraveling centuries of tradition. Maybe it's hope that you could tap into an even higher source than you ever imagined. According to some ancient writings, Yahweh, revered as the all-powerful creator in Judaism and Christianity, may not be the ultimate divine force, but rather a lesser deity known as the Demiurge. In this video, we'll delve into the hidden world of Gnostic teachings, sift through centuries of banned texts, and uncover the revelations of Dolores Cannon, a modern hypnotherapist who stumbled upon a cosmic hierarchy far beyond most religious doctrines. We'll trace how Yahweh rose, from a regional war god to the undisputed Lord, possibly overshadowing an even greater, more compassionate source of creation. Along the way, you'll discover why these ideas were branded heresy and how they just might empower you to see the divine within yourself. So, if you're ready for a journey that could rattle your beliefs yet set your spirit soaring, stay right here, because the truth about Yahweh, the Demiurge, and your own unclaimed power might be far more staggering and liberating than you ever imagined. The stage is set in the early centuries AD, a time of fervent religious debate. Christianity was still emerging from the shadow of Judaism, and diverse groups vied to define what true faith really meant. Among them were the Gnostics, an underground movement claiming that direct knowledge, Gnosis, of the divine, was not just possible, but essential. These Gnostics looked at the Old Testament accounts of Yahweh, the great floods, fiery punishments, battles against entire peoples, and asked a simple but radical question: could a truly omnibenevolent God do such things? Their answer was startling. Yahweh might be powerful, but he was far from perfect. In their writings, Yahweh is cast as the Demiurge, a cosmic craftsman who shaped our material realm, yet remained ignorant of a higher spiritual universe. This Demiurge was, at best, an arrogant ruler mistaking himself for the one true God, or, at worst, a cunning being deliberately deceiving humanity for his own glory. Texts like On the Origin of the World and The Reality of the Rulers painted a grand drama in which human souls carry the spark of a true, ultimate creator, a boundless source of love and light. So when Yahweh thundered, "I am God, and there is no one apart from me," the Gnostics heard not divine truth, but cosmic blasphemy. Naturally, the early church fathers viewed this as a direct attack on their emerging doctrine. If the God of the Old Testament was lesser or flawed, the entire foundation of mainstream Christianity shook, and thus began the systematic condemnation of Gnostic texts, an attempt to erase any notion that Yahweh could be anything but supreme. To grasp why the Gnostics clashed with mainstream beliefs, we first need to trace Yahweh's origins. Ancient Israel wasn't always strictly monotheistic. In fact, older traditions mention multiple deities, El, Baal, and Asherah among them, each presiding over different aspects of life. Yahweh initially emerged as a tribal war god for the Israelites, revered for his might against enemy nations. Over centuries, a shift took place. Prophets like Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel reinterpreted national crises, including the Babylonian exile, as Yahweh's punishment for Israel's faithlessness, not a defeat by some stronger deity. This theological spin served a dual purpose. It rallied the people back to worship one God and fused national identity with religious devotion. By the time the Second Temple was built, Yahweh wasn't just one among many. He was proclaimed the sole creator and lawgiver, yet scattered throughout the Old Testament are subtle echoes of Israel's once pluralistic roots. The Ten Commandments begin with, "You shall have no other gods before me," implying other gods existed, even if declared invalid. For Gnostics, these hints were smoking guns, suggesting that Yahweh's claim to unrivaled authority was not an eternal fact, but an evolving narrative. The question remained, did Yahweh become supreme through sheer spiritual reality, or did he overshadow other deities, including a true creator, in a cosmic power play? Regardless of which interpretation you accept, one thing is clear. Yahweh's transformation into the one and only God shaped the destiny of millions. And if the Gnostics were correct, this ascension might have come at the cost of burying an even more profound spiritual truth. Central to the Gnostic worldview is a stark divide between the physical world and the realm of pure spirit. They argued that the material universe, with all its suffering and limitations, could not have been the masterpiece of a perfectly loving God. Instead, they said it was the handiwork of the Demiurge, powerful, yes, but also flawed, ignorant, or even malevolent. Where does Yahweh fit in? Gnostics claimed he fashioned our physical existence, yet remained blind to the actual source, a boundless ocean of light and consciousness known by many names in Gnostic literature, but often referenced simply as the Father or the unknown God. This primordial force was love itself, utterly transcendent and never demanding worship through fear or bloodshed. They pointed to scriptural accounts of Yahweh's wrath, like the Great Flood or the plagues against Egypt, as evidence of a deity, driven by jealousy and anger rather than infinite compassion. If this was truly the one God of all creation, the Gnostics asked, why so much violence? Why issue harsh commands, demand sacrifices, and threaten punishments? Their answer, because Yahweh was not the all-perfect source, but rather a cosmic ruler. Desperate to maintain control, this narrative offered something radical for its time and possibly for ours. It proposed that we humans carry a spark of that higher hidden God within our souls, yearning to awaken from the Demiurge's illusions. In other words, salvation wasn't about appeasing Yahweh, but escaping his dominion altogether by reconnecting with the real Creator. Fast forward to modern times, where Dolores Cannon, a hypnotherapist and author of the Convoluted Universe series, began documenting thousands of past life regressions. During deep trance sessions, clients reported vivid experiences of other dimensions, parallel realities, and interactions with powerful beings who seemed to shape human existence. Cannon's work, though not explicitly Gnostic, often resonates with its core themes. Some subjects described a jealous or controlling entity masquerading as God, while others referenced a grand hierarchy of cosmic intelligences, some benevolent, others manipulative. In these stories, the figure closely resembling Yahweh was not necessarily omnipotent or omniscient. Instead, he was one of many high-level forces with differing agendas for Earth. Such revelations mirror the Gnostic Demiurge concept, a being vastly more powerful than humans, but still limited in comparison. To the ultimate divine source, Cannon's findings disturbed conventional believers, much like the Gnostic texts once did. They suggest that mainstream religion may oversimplify a far more complex cosmic drama, one where multiple players vie for influence over humankind. Cannon didn't set out to undermine faith. She was simply collecting data from hypnotic sessions. Yet the parallels with Gnostic warnings are too strong to ignore. Both indicate that the real key to freedom might lie in personal inner discovery, rather than in unexamined acceptance of an authority figure who demands obedience and fosters fear of punishment. Ancient Gnostics spoke of archons, cosmic, rulers under the Demiurge who enforce deception and keep humanity spiritually asleep. Look at today's world, and you might see modern parallels everywhere, from manipulative media to consumer-driven distractions, from fear-based politics to rigid institutional hierarchies. Instead of angels or serpents, our archons might be algorithms that exploit our emotions or ideologies that shut down critical thought. Consider how quickly fear can spread through sensational headlines. When people are anxious, they're more malleable. Governments, corporations, and even religious institutions can harness this fear to maintain authority. The Gnostics believed archons feed on ignorance, stifling the innate divine spark within each of us. Sound familiar? In a similar vein, Dolores Cannon's sessions often mention advanced entities, some guiding humanity toward enlightenment, others stoking division and confusion. These forces don't necessarily wear demonic faces. They might hide in plain sight, posing as benevolent guides while steering us into dependency and hopelessness. If the Gnostics were alive today, perhaps they'd argue that Yahweh's archons have simply taken on new forms: digital, psychological, and cultural. Does that mean all media, all governments, and all organized systems are evil? Not necessarily. But it does mean we should stay awake, question the narratives handed to us, and pay attention to who benefits from our fear or complacency. The path to liberation starts with recognizing the patterns of control, patterns that might be as ancient as the Demiurge himself. In a world that often measures success by material gains, the Gnostic focus on Gnosis can feel both alien and liberating. Gnosis is not simply knowledge. It's an inner awakening that shatters illusions and reveals our direct connection to the ultimate source. According to Gnostic belief, every human carries a divine spark, a piece of that transcendent, loving God overshadowed by the Demiurge's realm. How do we reclaim it? The Gnostics taught that pure devotion to external systems, the temple, the church, the state, could be a trap if it kept us from looking inward. Meditation, self-inquiry, and experiences that broaden our consciousness all serve to peel away the layers of deception. In Dolores Cannon's work, clients often discovered immense spiritual truths by delving into their subconscious or recalling distant lifetimes, bypassing official dogmas entirely. For some, this path of Gnosis might lead to the realization that we are co-creators, able to shape our reality once we grasp our divine origins. For others, it's enough to feel a renewed sense of purpose and peace, unburdened by the fear that once served as a spiritual leash. Either way, the call is the same. Look within, challenge the rules, and don't be afraid to ask whether the God you've been taught to worship truly aligns with your deepest sense of compassion and unity. We've journeyed through ancient Israel's polytheistic past, glimpsed the Gnostic charge that Yahweh is a flawed demiurge, and traced modern echoes in Dolores Cannon's revelations. Whether you find these ideas unsettling or oddly reassuring, one message stands out. Your relationship with the divine might be far more personal and empowering than you've ever been told. Fear emerges at the thought of questioning a deity we've accepted for so long. Nostalgia surfaces when we recall the comforts of simple faith. Yet hope burns brightest of all, the hope that behind the curtain of dogma lies a wondrous truth, one where each of us holds a spark of the real God, a being of boundless love and unity. If you're ready to take the next step, look inside. Begin by asking yourself, whose voice guides my spiritual journey, an external authority or the gentle wisdom within my own soul? If the Gnostics and Canon are correct, you might discover that the key to liberation isn't about pleasing an all-powerful ruler, but recognizing the infinite potential you carry in your own heart. And here's a practical first move. Scroll down to the pinned comment for a free ebook on these hidden teachings, knowledge once deemed too dangerous to share. Dive in. Let curiosity lead you. After all, if Yahweh's greatest fear is that we might uncover our true divine nature, perhaps the boldest thing you can do is to reclaim it once and for all.